Hi guys, welcome back. I'm here to do a quick wrap up of everything that I read in January. There's not a lot, there's only 4 books. It has been a little bit crazy around here since we have a contract on our house. We found a new house in Montana and we are going through all the crap that we've acquired over the past 15 years and just purging everything. It has actually really cut down on my reading time, which I anticipated. I am actually currently reading something. It is the 28th of January currently as I'm filming this, and I figured this might be my last chance to film and edit before we hit the road. I'm gonna come at you with a quick wrap up. The very first thing that I read and completed in January is Ubik by Philip K. Dick, and I made a whole dedicated reading, not a vlog necessarily, but my thoughts and reactions and my experience reading this. I absolutely loved this book. It was a 4.5 star for me, easily 4.5 star. It deals a lot with life and death and, those existential questions about what happens beyond life. At the start, I had a little bit of trouble with it just because it felt a little dry, a little stiff. It felt very black and white. But as the story proceeds, it starts to unfold into this Technicolor dream world in which you're not really sure exactly what's going on, but you're interested, you're intrigued, you want to know more. And Philip K. Dick's, his writing, his ideas, his concepts are so unique and so interesting and well developed that I just found myself absolutely mesmerized by his ability to tell the story, and it just really excels at the concepts and the plot, even though it took a little bit to pick up momentum and to get going. It really did at the end of the day pull through, and I absolutely love this, and I cannot wait to get to more. So if you don't know, this is the story about a group of anti-psychics who they actively work to stop people with psychic abilities from asserting their influence on others. This company, they run into a band of psychics who give them a run for their money. And that's really all I'm going to say, other than in this world, there is a state in which you can be kept, which basically keeps you in half-life. So you're not alive physically in the physical world, but your consciousness, your soul, is still able to be reached by those who have access to you, I suppose. It's very philosophical, like this unraveling, this kind of dissecting of life and death and life after death. And if you don't know, Ubik actually comes from the word ubiquity, which literally means the state or quality of being everywhere or appearing to be everywhere all at once. And I think that is so interesting that he decided to use that word because it is so fitting. I highly recommend this book. If you have not read from Philip K. Dick before, I definitely say, going into it, keep in mind that it is kind of classic sci-fi. It does start out a little bit dry and a little bit hard to get into because it's just a little dry. What else can I say? But it definitely picks up the momentum and really gets going. And yeah, it was just a great ride, a wild, crazy ride. And I know it has been said that Philip K. Dick sometimes leaves his stories not very well wrapped up, not tied up and finished with a little bow, that they are often open-ended. And I can see a little bit of that in here, but for the most part, I feel this was wrapped up nicely and I was very satisfied with the ending. The next book that I read was The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. This was another 4.5 star read for me. This is a kind of a thriller mystery that is told in multiple timelines with multiple perspectives. It is very literary. I think that it was brilliantly written. So there is a family and they live in the summertime in their house in the woods, and attached to that is a camp. And so kids in the local community, they come to this camp every year. There's a big blowout party. the family, their son Bear, goes missing. They never solve the mystery of what happened to him, and that is just hanging over this family's head for years and years. They end up having another child. It's a daughter. Many years later, I think it's like 15 years after the first child went missing, the daughter goes missing as well. And so it's this slow unraveling of this family, the unraveling of the people, and an unraveling of the events. You get to see it from multiple angles, various people. It's very immersive and captivating. I will say that I felt this book is very reminiscent of Kate Morton. If you've ever read Kate Morton's books, she tells historical fiction mystery thrillers, and she usually does it in the same fashion with multiple timelines, flashing forward and backward, and multiple characters. And it's this luscious, intriguing world that you just kind of get sunken into. That is absolutely what this reminded me of. It was very heartbreaking and emotional, just really hard to swallow sometimes in that respect. But it was gorgeously written. The prose is very illustrative and immersive, and I loved it. I don't want to say too much about it just because it is a mystery, and you really are better off going into it not knowing what to expect and just savoring it as it's given to you. 4.5 stars. So the next 2 books that I read with the idea of comparing them to each other, because you will see why in a second. The first one is Nestlings by Nat Cassidy. If you don't know, Nat Cassidy has himself said that he took inspiration from Rosemary's Baby, which is the 4th book that I'll talk about more in a minute. But he openly and avidly says that he took inspiration from Rosemary's Baby. So Nestlings is a story of a family, a husband and wife and their young daughter, and they get this invitation to move into this old historic building in downtown Manhattan overlooking Central Park. Of course, not long after they move in, all these weird and disturbing things begin to happen, like delivery men refusing to bring their deliveries into the building and having to meet them across the street. Yeah, just weird, creepy little incidents, and it all seems very mundane, I guess. It's not over the top at first, and you just wonder if it's not the mother, the wife's perspective, because she gave birth and was paralyzed afterward, and she's dealing with postpartum depression, her resentment that she holds a little bit for her daughter, and her feelings for her daughter being very complicated. She has a lot of things going on, which rightfully so. The husband too, because not only did he have to help take care of a newborn, but he also had to care for his wife, who was newly in a wheelchair. So it definitely deals a lot with grief and the institution of marriage and that familial bond and the breaking down of that and how that can happen after your life changes after giving birth. But that's kind of the backstory. Ultimately, this is a horror thriller because there is obviously a villain in this story. There is creepy creatures and bugs and spiders and blood and gore, all of these things. There was some really disturbing pieces in here, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't find it scary. I thought that it was very atmospheric and fun and entertaining to read. I really, really enjoyed his writing. He really grabs a hold of the sensory details and brings them to life. It just really worked for me as a great, creepy, entertaining book. I wasn't scared, but it still really worked for me, as the 4.5 star rating reflects, I would say, wouldn't you? And then directly after that, I picked up Rosemary's Baby, which I had not ever read before. I am kind of ashamed to admit, but this was a 5 star. I adored this book. While Nestlings deals very much with the supernatural villain, this book is more real-life villains. It deals more with witchcraft and devil worship and cults and all of these dark things. The writing style is very straightforward, yet very descriptive. You really get to know the main character, who is Rosemary, and you really get to feel this overwhelming, sinister feeling that starts to surround her and suffocate her as she's dealing with a new pregnancy and being in a lot of pain and not getting the answers that she needs. It's very much a layered tale about retaining your agency and your sense of self when you are fully immersed in this other suffocating atmosphere in which everyone else is telling you what to think and feel, and that you're overreacting and that it's just your pregnancy, you know, your heightened emotions. This definitely has some creepy, scary parts to it. And again, I give that over to the sheer believability of the villains in this story, the actual like plausibility that these characters could exist, probably have existed, and certain similar circumstances have probably taken place in a building quite like this one. And then not only that, but the one thing I will say is this also very much focuses on the relationship, that the marital bond and the breaking down of that over big life changes, as well as lies and betrayal, that disintegration of that relationship. It was, I swear, it was so fun to see what he could do with this old building. Like, it was really something else. And the ending of this book knocked my socks off. It was so good. It was definitely a wow moment for me. So highly recommend Rosemary's Baby if you have not read it before. It is a great, creepy horror book to read, and I highly recommend it. I still have not watched the movie. I still want to at some point, and I hopefully will, but it probably won't happen anytime soon. You may see a little bit of a pause in videos from me. I'm going to try and film some of our move. It just depends on the amount of chaos and how much time I have to actually think about recording. So yeah, so we'll see, but I will be reading as much as I can when I can. And as soon as I have an update and have time to edit and put videos up for you, I will get on that. Until then, I would love to know what you read in January. Did you read any horror books? Did you read any new releases? Talk to me about the books down in the comments below. Leave me some recommendations. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.